What's up? Welcome to the Unstuck Podcast. I'm your host, Drew Koss, and you are in the right spot. This is where we discuss real life, real problems with real people. You're going to get unstuck. Now, while you're at it, make sure you subscribe and share this with a loved one. Let's get ready to get unstuck. Have you ever thought to yourself, I've prayed about this for a long time, and it seems like God's never answering, or He's never answering the exact prayer that I'm praying? If that's you, then today we're going to give you some help, some solutions, and some hope. Welcome to the Unstuck Podcast. I'm your host, Drew Koss. And today we're getting unstuck spiritually and mentally. I had a day yesterday where everything could have went wrong on a call. It was yesterday. And it wasn't even anything major. It just shook me so much. So most of you guys know I'm a content coach, and I help people learn how to create content that makes sense for their audience, but first makes sense for them so that they're not creating content without being themselves. And podcasting, I have a huge love for helping people to podcast. So I'm on a Zoom call, and as usual, I usually tell them like, hey, my co-host might come in. That's my 4-year-old. And they know that. Everybody probably knows that. I say that because she might just walk in the room. It's summertime right now, and she's not in school. So I let them know that, and they're okay with it. Now, with this being said, it still could rattle me when she walks in, because I'm usually teaching on screen. So I'm getting ready to start the class. It's cool. And I start the class, and someone in the middle of me teaching the editing part, the glitches in the computer and the system for some reason just started happening. And I'm like, okay, just keep teaching, work around it. Then the volume wouldn't work properly. Now, I've used Zoom tons of time. I've used these platforms to know how to work the volume, and we get the volume working. So I'm a little thrown off, and all of a sudden, with all of this happening, my little 4-year-old, my lioness, comes down the stairs, and she's in the tank top and her underwear, and she's asking me just a question out loud. And usually when she sees like me teaching, she kind of knows like, okay, stay quiet. Let me just sit here until he finishes. But yesterday was full force. She came in, she's just asking me, Dad, can I use this water? Can I use this cup? And I'm like, yeah, you're okay, baby. And the people in the room, in the classroom, they're waving because they know her. So they're waving like, hi, Aaliyah. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then after, she sees what I'm teaching, and I'm teaching an editing part. And for some reason, the screen that I'm showing them editing on was me at a playground. I was at a playground, and the playground was the background. She sees it. She's like, Dad, can we go there? Can we go there? And she's looking, and she's talking, and I'm thrown off. And then a minute later, someone came in that wasn't supposed to be on that call. They came in the room, and it just rattled me. And I say all this to say this. My prayer was being answered, and I had no idea because I was so frustrated at things not going the way that I thought they should have been going. Now, you may say, Drew, how was your prayer answered in that part? My goal right now is, before the year ends, I want to teach 100 people how to start and launch their podcast. And by saying that, I know for a fact some of the things that will come along the journey will, the temptation to not believe it can happen. Something that may come is you'll have to probably teach sometimes people who don't seem like they're moving fast or getting it. Whenever you pray something, usually the answer is something that's the opposite, because that helps you. And I'm not saying that from a place of I've arrived. I'm saying that from a place that it came to me today. One of the things I always said was I want to be a great father, and I want to make sure I pour into my girl, and I want to make sure that I'm attentive to her. And I'm doing this, and I'm realizing that's what's happening. They're in uncomfortable circumstances at times. You're spending a lot more time with her right now because it's summertime and she wants to play more. She wants to talk more. She wants to be on you more. And those things are the answered prayers. But this verse came to me. I want to read it real quick. It's Jeremiah 29:11. As I'm pulling it up, if you have not subscribed, please subscribe so that you can help us help more people and that you can be notified when we launch these episodes so that you can continue to find encouragement in it. This verse says, "For I know the plans and the thoughts I have for you," says the Lord, "plans for peace and well-being, and not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope." And in that verse, it encourages me to realize that God is not trying to make our lives horrible. That sounds like, okay, we know that, but I think at times we can forget and feel that, you know, the favor or the odds are stacked against us. We have a content group called Make Content Simple Again, and in the group we purposely do not only talk about content. We usually try to talk about life in general because I believe when you have clarity in your head, your content is going to be that much better. We were talking about some things that were happening to somebody, some situations that weren't favorable, and situations that kept feeling like setbacks and things were wrong. And as we began to talk about them, we started realizing that, wait, God is answering prayers. This wasn't your problem last year. Your problem last year was believing for one thing, and now you're at like the fourth stage. I want to challenge you to think, where were you 3 years ago that you were praying about? Where are you now with that prayer? Sometimes we don't take time to think about, hey, I was praying this a couple years ago, and now I'm at this spot where I have it. I'm just now solving the next problem. And that's okay. That's okay. And as I was telling that content group, keep pressing. I'm talking to myself and to them. Keep pressing, keep moving forward. And sometimes acknowledge and wait, hey, this prayer has been answered, or it's being answered. It's just not happening in the way and the fashion that I want it to happen. And if that could happen like that, you would probably become ungrateful. You probably would become entitled, and you probably wouldn't actually appreciate what you've been given. With learning how to teach people how to podcast and things like that, I've went through so many frustrating things with um, sometimes not getting the help, recording episodes that didn't record, not being able to afford certain equipment I wanted, having to finagle things, having to make things work. And those things teaches me and taught me how to teach somebody how to approach barriers, how to approach when things are not going right, how to keep going. I've quit before. Those things are answered prayers. I want to encourage us today to start thinking, what prayers have been answered? What prayers have been answered? I remember starting my podcast, and I remember starting a YouTube channel, and my goal was to get 20 people. My goal right now is to get 1,000, but I'm right near 500. I want to be grateful in the process of the prayers being answered. Shout out. If you haven't subscribed to YouTube or the podcast, please go subscribe so you can help me out. I want to be grateful as I move along. I don't want to become the person that only waits until it's fully in front of me to experience peace and to be grateful. So I want to encourage today, take a moment, take 2 minutes and write down, where was I at 3 years ago that I'm at now? And with that being said, how do I express some gratitude to God? How do I make sure that I realize that I've made a lot of good steps? A lot of good things have happened. They may not have happened as fast as I thought they should have, but a lot of good things have happened. As you're doing that, I would love to know what some of those things are in the comment section. If you're listening to this on Spotify, in the comment section, let me know. Or if you want to just DM me on Instagram, I'm at Coach Drew Cause. Let me know. I would love to know, where were you 3 years ago, and now you see that prayers have been answered. I know I used to always say that I didn't want to grind every night. And 3 years ago, I worked the nights so much that when I would come home, I was just dead tired. And that's not the circumstance right now. So we have to be aware that prayers are being answered. Be you guys, they'll just. I'm out of here. I cannot say thank you enough for listening to this episode. Do me a favor, subscribe and share it with a friend. Help us help more people as we share a message of getting unstuck with real life problems with real people solving them. Be great.